Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Boraki here with a look at a free game. I know it's a little odd, but I bet you guys have heard of the Oregon Trail, the really old '90s game where you're a pilgrim or whatever going or a pioneer. Sorry, not a pilgrim. Pioneer going across the plains through the Rockies to Oregon to set up a new life. Well, this is a new spin on that. It's where you have to survive climate crises and disasters like fires, drought, all that stuff. You have to go from I think it's from Kentucky, no, Atlanta. Sorry, Atlanta all the way to Canada in order to survive because the U.S. has been almost utterly wiped out by multiple climate disasters, and the only safe place that is not too hot and unbearably desolate is Canada. So let's get into this. What happens to a society when people stop caring about the future of the planet? Sometime in the not too distant future. Yep. Climate change starts. Please enter the name of your character. Let's do Boraki. So you've got three different difficulty settings, and I find this really cool. Where the global average temperature has risen 4 degrees Celsius, 5 degrees Celsius, or 6 degrees Celsius. And it goes from 4 is the moderate, and then significant, the highest. Poor conditions, worse conditions, stuff like that. Let's go with moderate right now. Alright, so we go to the introduction here. Alright, show me the introduction. The climate trail begins at a survivors' camp in the ruins of the city of Atlanta with other survivors. We're introduced to Catherine. Hello, Boraki. My name is Catherine. I used to be a climate scientist. That was before the Big Burn. What was the Big Burn? The burn is what people called the massive and uncontrolled wildfires that devastated the land. Wildfires have been a part of living in the West for a long time, but they got larger and more numerous. Looks like that. Yep. I think this is a picture of the most recent wildfire in California. Or last year's California wildfire that ripped through the town of Paradise. Soon they were too much for people to fight. The heat got worse, more fires started, and that released more CO2. Even worse, people began to set fire to the Amazon rainforest, which acted as a carbon sink, reducing CO2 levels just to exploit the land for farming and minerals. And scientists warn, yes, we warned people, but even we were wrong about how bad it would be. Feedback loops. We knew they existed, but they seemed like remote possibilities. We were wrong. Fires released more CO2. More CO2 means more heat. More heat means more fires. Feedbacks amplify the warming Permafrost, or the ground in the Arctic frozen all year round, began to melt, releasing methane, a far more powerful greenhouse than CO2. The Arctic became ice-free. Um, if you guys have seen The Expanse, you'll know pretty much what I'm talking about. Is in the intro uh, cinematics for The Expanse, it shows this giant ice sheet shrinking and shrinking, and then finally an iceberg comes off of that land, and it starts flooding the entire uh, world. That's kind of what's going on right here. The Arctic became more ice-free. Ice is more reflective to sunlight than water, and it also raised temperatures. When I started college, Greenland's ice was already melting at a level not predicted to happen until 50 years later. Photo credit Stephen M. Olson, DMI. I have seen this one before. I didn't even think that was Greenland until someone told me, and I was like, holy shit. The climate models had underestimated the warming because of these feedback loops. If only people listened to these scientists, all the warning signs were there. How did everyone die? Mostly the heat and the storms, and then the wars after that for the resources. Melting permafrost also released diseases that the world hasn't seen in over thousands of years. Only a few of us left now. Even our survival is doubtful. Climate trail. Baraki, the conditions are here are getting worse. I have two friends, Bonnie and Albert. I think we all need to get onto the climate trail and go north to Canada. I didn't have enough seeds to get the supplies to make it to Canada, but Albert does. Meet Albert. Hello, Boraki. My name is Albert. Long ago, I was in the army and fought the resource wars. What were the resource wars like? Wars fought for remaining oil, food, and dry land. Sea level rise flooded most of the coasts, even in the U.S. Once the ice melted, the sea level was far higher. Other places, like India, had it even worse. Millions migrated to escape the waters and the heat. Wars didn't last long. Once the oil ran out and the plagues spread, there wasn't much point to it all. Who's Bonnie? They got the plague from the permafrost melt, promised to take care of her, and intend to live up to that promise. That's where we're going to make it to Canada. Bet you're tired of talking to Catherine and Albert. I don't have much to say. I hear it's cooler and green if we go to Canada. I know it's going to be hard, but I want to go. I'm worried about the trip, Bonnie. It's dangerous, and I made a promise to keep you safe. Catherine says so we can't stay, and she's right about most things. I'm afraid that's right. It's getting too hot to stay here in Atlanta. Alright, we need to go. We're going to need some way of carrying hundreds of kilograms of supplies. We need to talk to James. He's a bit crazy, probably from the heat, but he owes me a big favor. Want some rye? Of course you do. Now, James, you know you don't have any rye. That ran out years ago. Oh, yeah, you're right. I forget sometimes. Anyway, welcome to Camp Atlanta, Boraki. My name is James. Well, we're some of the lucky ones, aren't we? Not many survived the burn. Not many people left here. Heat's getting too much. Hard to grow anything. That's why people hit the climate trail. Now, old Interstate 75 is pretty well trashed, but with the storms and the fighting. Well, at least the fighting's over. Not many of us left. Al saved my life once. I owe him, so I'm going to help all of y'all get out of here before it's too late. Too old to go myself, but you can make it if you're smart. So here's how people are getting to Canada. Load up bikes with hundreds of kilograms of supplies, push them along. This isn't a new idea. Matter of fact, these folks fought to a draw with the U.S. about hundreds of years ago using the same transport, pushing bikes on trails. Good news, we got bikes. We got lucky and found hundreds of them in a dump. Rideshare bikes. These bikes got trashed before the burn. They are basic but sturdy, solid synthetic tires, and they can hold a lot of weight. It's going to be slow going, but if you pace yourself and your supplies and treat your companions right, you might make it. Now you've got one advantage: seeds. 2,200 grams can buy a lot of food and water. Talk to Dorothy. She'll get you started. My name is Dorothy. I manage the supplies at the camp. So you're hitting the climate trail. Well, you'll first need supplies. What do you want to buy? Oh, we need water. Let's put it at half. Yeah. And then food about the same. Keep the seed. Oh, let's buy 200 more. Kilograms of food, and then about another 200 kilograms of water. My cousin Malcolm still might be running a store somewhere along the trail. He's a good person and can sell you more supplies. Good luck. Be safe on your journey north. It's going to be a long, difficult journey, but we have no choice. What pace will you travel at? Note, your party is pushing loaded bikes with hundreds of kilograms of supplies on porter. Oh, let's do a moderate pace. And 4 liters of water per day. And about the same for that. Traveling to Dalton from Atlanta. The party of 4. Yes, let's collect rainwater. 104 liters. That's good. Alright, we made it to Dalton. Let's see if we can find supplies in the city. Damn. Alright, well, let's rest. Alright, I already set. Another moderate pace. And continue traveling. So Dalton was a bust. Let's go to Chattanooga and see if we can find some more supplies here. Damn. Alright, well, let's rest. Let's look for a little bit more water. Okay. Well, continue traveling then. Yeah, we could always use more water. Day 21, and we are just outside. We're at day 24, and we're in Sweetwater. Let's look for some supplies, people. Yeah, we found 56 liters of water and 51 kilos of food. Group morale is high. Let's rest and continue traveling. Canada is 1,600 kilometers from here. Knoxville. Search for supplies. Damn. Well, let's rest and continue traveling to Jellicoe. We are almost out of food. Yes, we do need the rainwater. We can survive a lot longer without food than water. Find some supplies. Damn. Well, let's continue traveling. Corbin's not that far. Arrived in Corbin, find supplies. Yes, we do need food. And let's do that. Yeah, so we found that lady's cousin, Beria, in Kentucky. Find some supplies. 150 or 145 liters of water and 25 kilos of food. It's not much, but we're getting there. Traveling to Lexington. Yeah, sure. Wow. Find supplies. Enough. Well, let's continue going. Everyone's at good health. Morale is still decent. We still got a little bit of food and water. Yeah. Always could use more water. Cincinnati. Wait it out. Let's hope it's fine. Damn it. Oh. Dayton's not too far away. No. We're gonna have to ration our food again. After we... Shit. Alright. Hopefully we find something in Lima. Because good lord. We are running. Let's try it. Damn, that did not go well. Find supplies. Yay, a little bit. Continue traveling. Oops, wrong button. Findlay. Yeah, why not? And on to Toledo. Before we even get over to Detroit. Don't have enough time. We are out of food. Let's wait it out. Shit. No food for 7 days. Arrived in Detroit. Please find some food. Damn. No food for 10 days. I'm gonna die. 11 days. Kate has died from starvation, and so has Elle. And I've died. And Bon will have to try to get together without me yet. So, from 350.org, it's warming. Earth has always had natural cycles of warming and cooling, but not like we're seeing now. In the top 5 hottest years on record: 2016, 2015, 2017, 2018, and 2014. And rising temperatures doesn't only mean it's getting hotter. The Earth's climate is complex. Even a small increase in average global temperature means big changes with lots of dangerous side effects. It's us. Or it's US. Before the 18th century, when humans in the industrial West began to burn coal, oil, and gas, our atmosphere typically contained about 280 parts per million of CO2. Those are the conditions on which civilization developed and which life has adapted. Now, as use of fossil fuels spread through the world, the amount of carbon in the atmosphere is skyrocketing. We are now well over 415 parts per million of CO2. It's bad. 1 degree Celsius of warming has already resulted in devastating impacts all across the planet. Global grain yields have declined by 10% from heat waves and floods connected to climate change, unleashing hunger and displacement. Over 1 million people living near coasts have been forced from their homes due to rising sea levels and stronger storms, and millions more are expected to flee in the coming years. The IPCC states the difference between 1.5 Celsius and 2 degrees Celsius of global temperature rise could mean well over 10 million more migrants from sea level rise. And we can fix it. We know exactly what we have to do: keep fossil fuels in the ground and quickly transition to 100% renewable energy. The science says it's possible to stay under 1.5 degrees Celsius, but we need to halve emissions by 2030 and increase the share of solar, wind, and hydro energy dramatically in that time. For more info, see 350.org. So, that was climate change. It is free over on Steam. Or Climate Trail, sorry. The Climate Trail version 1.5 is on Steam for free. Go take a look for yourself. Message me back if you actually make it. And until next time, stay frosty, especially in this heat.